Hey there everybody, Eric from Outer Limitless coming at you today with another video. Now if you've been watching my channel, you've seen me going through an iteration with my Ruger PC Carbine. Most recently I've been kind of getting it out into the range, trying different things, worked through the iron sights, worked through addition of a red dot, and today I am going to turn the corner just a little bit into a couple of things that I'm really, quite frankly, going to experiment with. Now, I don't know if this is really going to work out, but I'm going to give it a try. The people at Mid-10 reached out to me to see if I'd be interested in checking out some of their firearms accessories. They have a bunch of optics, fairly reasonable, I'd call them budget optics, but they also have sights. And, well, they also have bipods and kind of all related around M-Lok style equipment, which I thought was pretty cool because, well, of course, here on my Ruger PC Carbine, I do have the M-Lok handguard. And so, you know, it really got me thinking, trying to really advance and come up with ideas that I thought would enhance my Ruger PC Carbine. Like, for example, maybe 45-degree sights, something that I hadn't really thought about with this particular firearm. But now that I have the red dot on here, I'm like, well, wait, maybe that makes a lot of sense. And then, well, the other part of it, quite honestly, I wasn't even thinking about the fact that once I put the red dot on, my actual iron sights don't even co-witness. So they also have flip-up sights that are a little bit taller. And I'm like, well, maybe these are going to help and actually give me sights that will co-witness with my red dot. So here we have some flip-up sights. And furthermore, well, I've been using my Magpul products, most specifically the bipod, and well, M10 has these interesting M-Lok style bipods. And I was like, this could really change the way I approach my Ruger PC Carbine. So today what we're going to do, we're going to go through it in detail. I'm going to get everything mounted up, completely change things up, and then we're going to get out to the range and see if my thoughts are even viable. And so with that said, I have a whole bunch to do and a whole bunch to share with you. And if you're interested in seeing a little bit more about what I'm about to get into, do me a favor, stay tuned. Now, before we get too far, I would like to say thank you very much to the people at Mid-10 who did provide these products for review. And so now as we get into this, as I mentioned, 3 different products here from Mid-10. Now I am extremely excited to try these out. When Mid-10 reached out to me at first, I was kind of like, oh, I'm not sure what I'm going to be able to do with all this stuff because I feel like in some ways I was sort of set in my ways, but to me, that's not the right attitude, and especially for a channel, somebody growing in firearms and trying to just experiment. And so I really started to think, well, wait a minute, maybe I could leverage these products to my advantage and really build out my Ruger PC Carbine a little bit different. So here you can see, like, for example, these 45-degree just offset sights. I mean, seemingly very nicely machined. Everything about these very nice. I mean, just good quality and fairly reasonable prices. And, you know, when it comes down to it, bottom line is this. I mean, if you're fairly new to firearms like me, it's like drinking through a fire hose. I mean, you have so many things just coming your way. Between the ability to purchase the firearms in the first place, the optics, all the accessories, and then beyond that, all the little things that add up, your safe, all your cleaning supplies. I mean, it can be crazy. So finding good quality and affordable budget items that are very effective can really pay off. And that's what I'm hoping we're going to see here today from Mid-10. And so the first thing for me as I get into this, I do feel like I'm going to pretty much have to strip down my rail. So that's going to be the first thing. The second thing I'm going to mention is I am going to, for the moment, leave my factory sights, but these will probably come off if I find the flip-up sights really do work for my needs. So that's something I'm just going to have to test. And so first we're going to take a look at the Mid-10 R3 iron sights. Now these are aperture sights. You'll notice that they do have a couple different apertures on them. And this is my very first set of sights like this. Flip up design. So as you can see here, you depress the button. These do flip up. Now the first thing as I get these mounted, they do fit on either pick or weaver rails. And I push the button. They don't like fly up. So you pretty much have to depress the button and then push them up. And these do seem to be fairly nicely made, all things considered. Got these kind of torqued down on here. and nice and firm. And as we take a look, you'll notice that these do have fiber optics. So these are a fiber optic rear, and then there's a fiber optic on the front post. And again, you can change the aperture size. So for me personally, I'll probably keep it on the larger setting there. I think that will work a little bit better. And as we get into the rear and take a quick look, you can see that this does have windage adjustment. There's a graduation on the back, and as we dial this, you can see it does move along that post. And that nice bright silver line definitely going to help aid in the visibility of your adjustment. So generally speaking, seemingly pretty nice, and I like the fact that it has the adjustments. And so of course that doesn't offer any elevation adjustment. However, at this point, I am going to get into the front sight. Now, these are, again, a sort of pick or weaver style rail mount. So I'm going to have to relocate my mount. And I actually have this chunk of rail that did come with the actual rifle. And I think what I'm going to do is pretty much get this all the way out to the front end of the handguard. And that should give me the ability to mount the front sights, which now at this point you can see everything mounted up on the front of the rifle. Now again, keep in mind I am leaving my factory sights here for now, just until I figure things out. But again, you can see the mid-10 R3 pop-up sight here. Now again, keep in mind this does have a fiber optic post. And here, as I depress the button and pop these up, this should have elevation adjustment. So even though the rear sights do not, the front should have elevation adjustment. Now, one thing to consider, the mid-10 sights do not come with a tool, so I actually did purchase a tool separate. Now, I know there's a number of different ways you can go about adjusting these, regardless of having a tool or not, but I thought the tool would be a good way for me to go, so I did pick one up. But here you can see, as these are mounted up. Now, my initial impression was maybe I could co-witness with my red dot, but clearly you can see the elevation of these sights actually goes above the red dot. So at this point, I'm literally looking over the top of it, and these might be a viable option for that perspective. But now the question is, well, what happens when I flip these down? Can I put this down and still see through the red dot? And the answer to that is yes. However, it's going to be close. And I feel like this may compete or get in my way to actually be able to see straight through the red dot glass and to my target. So in other words, I'm not going to be quite as target acquired as I would like. But foregoing the red dot for a minute and flipping these up now, of course, as I mentioned, these don't seem to just like fly up, but you can depress and these will go nicely into place. And as I take a look through, a little hard to pick up. It's going to take me some getting used to this, but it actually feels pretty good. And when I get the rifle nice and into place here, yeah, that's going to work just fine. And the question is, can I open both eyes and stare straight through? Only time will tell. So far, pretty interesting. I'm not sure if this is a viable option for my setup just yet, but time will tell. And so next, the 45-degree flip-up sights. Now, these I can say, I'm going to struggle a little bit with the right thing to do. I mean, first off, lack of experience is first and foremost, of course. But the next thing is just getting everything out of the way so that I can, use the appropriate manual of arms on my firearm, get everything sort of set up the way I need and accessible. And you can see that I have maximized the overall length of the sight radius here. So all the way to the back of the rail on this particular rear sight, and then all the way to the front of the rail, all the way up on the handguard for the front sight. And here you can see as I depress the button, well, that pops up right away, which is nice both on the front and the rear. So that's going to work out mighty nice. Now, a couple of things that catch me right away. And I can say that if I am going to be operating my handle, at this point, that point right there is quite sharp. And I could see me really racking on that and really banging straight into that point. And that's kind of funny to me. I don't know why that's there. I mean, I'm sure there's a reason, and it's probably for more of a, a different rifle style, and that little cutout there for some sort of, recess and access. But to me, that's going to be a bit of a liability. So I'll be interested to see how that works in the long run. Now, again, on the rear, you can see this has the fiber optic, and it has two different sizes or diameters of aperture, so smaller and larger. The larger you can see with the fiber optics. And then here, a bit of an audible click and a very tactile feel on the windage adjustment, and you can see the line there clearly moving. So that works very well. The windage adjustment seeming to be very effective. And then on the front, also with the fiber optics, and this sight does have the elevation adjustment. Again, these do not come with the tool. That may be a separate purchase if you're thinking you need the tool to adjust these. But what does seem like it's going to be a great advantage now, as I'm on my red dot, no problem. These are well out of the way, and if I needed to, I can get on this sideways. Now, I do have to maybe make a little bit of an adjustment with my sling mount, but not a big deal. It's actually probably going to work out just fine. And yeah, solid sight picture. And at this point, the fiber optics, really nice. And what I can tell you is that might be a little close for my needs. So I could possibly, and I can't get in the way of my charging handle, what I would probably need to do, and I'll probably remove actually my factory front sight if I keep these on, and put a piece of rail there if I can, which I think I can do, and then move this and slide it up, which I think will actually improve my visibility through it. This is a little close to my eyes, but man, that might be okay. Only practice will tell, and that's something I'm going to learn when I get to the range. But the nice thing, again, the fact that, I can lay these down flat, they're completely out of the way, and then if I had to, in a moment's notice, it's right there, bang, bang. That actually is pretty smooth and easy to get to. Again, as I sort of demonstrate this, if I was on the red dot and then needed the sights, no problem. That works very well. And then in terms of zeroing in, I know zeroing in on a 45 can be a little bit different. So that would be just something that I need to practice, get proficient at. So viability here, I'd say definitely. I'm just a little bit nervous about the construction. I think this corner is going to get me for sure. I mean, I'm going to end up bleeding, I guarantee. I'll be swearing at some point. But other than that, I mean, I'm not really going to go 45 degrees the other way. So to me, this is the way to go. It's just a matter of practice and getting used to it. Now, as I get into the bipod, a couple of considerations and a couple of things worth noting. Now, first and foremost, the way this works, basically you pull this out and you can adjust it forward and back. And then here you can see the legs pop out and they are spring loaded, which is nice. So they do fairly easily retract under their own sort of spring tension. So that's awesome, and I like that. And you do have the ability to lock these. Now, with that said, as we take a look, again, these are M-Lok. So basically, these are going to go on the side of my handguard, and you'll notice that they have little indexing points. So these fit specifically and strategically in some of the slots. Which means once I get into this, I do need to think now about my hand position, which is going to be right about here, and strategically outside of my sling mount and right inside of the sort of pick rail here, which means that I kind of need to pick these two slots from what I can tell for the actual bipod. So we're going to give that a go. And so mounted up on the front here, you can see I got my bipod mounted on the front on this side, but on this side, yeah, that's not going to work because, well, unfortunately, this is in conflict with the button now on my 45-degree iron sights. So that is not going to work, which means now if I'm going to do this, I literally have to pull the iron sights back to here at minimum and that's not really ideal, but I can. I'm not happy about it, but I can. And so hard to say if I will keep it this way, but at this point I do have my PC Carbine set up with some of the mid-10 equipment. And this is going to give me an option to test it at the range. So you can see what I've done. I've put my bipod basically 2/3 of the way towards the front, roughly. Now this will require me pretty much to fold these up in the forward position, which is fine. And it's actually going to add a little bit of forward weight, which... two things. One, yeah, it's going to make it a little bit heavier to hold it up towards the front, but maybe it's going to also help with a little more recoil management. You can see I've now added the flashlight, put it up towards the front, and I did have to buy myself just a little bit of room. But I do have pretty easy access to the flip-up sights, which should work pretty well, at least for the 45 degree. And easy to see on there, no problem. My red dot, easy to see on there. The flashlight, I can either put it in the laser mode or I would probably at this point put it on flashlight, which is easy. And everything seems to work. So, I mean, fairly comfortable. My hand position is literally perfect and completely unimpeded, which is nice. So I think this is going to work. So at this point, there's only one thing left to do. That's test it at the range. And so now, as I get the mid-10 setup out to the range, both with the flip-up sights, the 45 degree sights, and also the bipod. Now, as I get into some functional testing, I'm going to run basically, in essence, 10 rounds of 10 shots each. So in setup number 1, using the flip-up sights at 7 yards, I'm aiming towards center mass. Now, you'll see right away, as I got started, I took a couple of shots and realized that I was basically shooting low. So in other words, I need to bring my shot up. Now, I did buy myself a tool for these sights, and I found that it was very difficult to use. The tool is pretty cheap, to be completely honest with you. I don't think it's a problem with the sights. Rather, I just got a very cheap tool. It did not fit well, and it was fairly ineffective. So for the quick test, I flipped down the sights and thought I'd get back on target with simply the red dot alone, just to make sure I knew where I was going. So at this point, you can see I am working on 10 full shots, the first 2 with the flip-up sights, and then getting back on it with the red dot. And as I continue to work through my progression here, well, not too bad, all things considered. You can see the first 2 shots were low with the iron sights, and then the red dot pretty well dialed in and stacking on top of each other for the most part in a 1 inch by 1 inch square. Now, as I move forward into round 2 and round 3, because I knew I couldn't adjust the iron sights, I figured I'd get into the 45 degree sight, but unfortunately I was having about the exact same problem. So here too, trying to make the adjustment and really struggling, I did find after a while if I simply got a flathead screwdriver and punched down the little pin on the inside, it did allow me to dial down the sights. So this is the way that I did approach making the adjustments on my front sight post. So here you can see with the 45 degree sights, taking a couple of shots, checking it, making my adjustment, moving forward and checking it. Well, all in all, what I found is I did end up basically burying my front sight post as low as it could possibly go, which means I'm trying to bring my shots up as much as possible. And unfortunately, what you will see is the entire time, my shots were just simply low. I couldn't get the front sight post low enough. And after round 2 and after round 3, at this point, my shots were off. Now, yes, they were off in elevation. They were also off a little bit in windage. I did find after a while I was able to easily make my windage adjustments, and that was not a problem. But I was constantly fiddling around with the sight post trying to get this dialed in, and unfortunately for me, I could never get my shots to come up enough. They were literally low the entire time. So now as I move into round 4, I'm still in the pistol bay, but here you can see I am trying to get on my target. Oddly enough, the 45 degree sight just simply popped open on me. Little bit of an error, but not a big deal. And again, moving forward here, you can see I was trying to use just the front post, try to co-witness a little bit with that red dot. And again, unfortunately, it is just simply pushing my shots low. So the iron sights themselves, Shooting low, the red dot, yeah, I'm a touch low here, but they are stacked and they're in my target. So I know my red dot was fairly close. That is something that I was able to use to keep me on target. Now, as I mentioned, I was a little bit nervous about the point on the 45-degree sights. And I was exactly right. It definitely left a reasonable little cut on my hand from running the charging handle. So that is something worth considering. Now moving further out to 25 yards, I am running in the rifle bay at this point. I'm leveraging the bipod, and for this first test, I am using the red dot just to get myself kind of acclimated, making sure that I have everything set up the way I want, and making sure that I'm at least hitting paper at 25 yards reasonably accurate. I do like the bipods quite a bit. These are very, very nicely made. They're fairly light, all things considered, easily adjustable. They fold down in a matter of seconds, and they are sturdy. So generally speaking, I'm very happy with the bipods. And even though my shots were off just a little bit here with the red dot, you can see they are grouped very well and get me fairly close to the target, all things considered. After just a little bit of an adjustment, you'll see that with the red dot, I was able to bring it back down in line with what I would expect, getting it on target and grouping mighty nice. After 10 shots in round 5, it's time to move on to round 6. So my next 6 shots here, again, this is at 25 yards. At this point, I am using the flip-up sights. So taking 10 full shots, the first 5 shots, you'll see they end up kind of low. And then I try to make the adjustment and bring everything up. In terms of my windage, I was able to easily make some adjustments. No problem with my windage adjustments. It's really just the elevation adjustments that I continue to struggle with. It's definitely going low at this point. So, back to bringing my shot up. Still on round 6. Trying to bring my shot up, going for the top left X with these iron sights. I can't really tell. Yeah, I went low. I can't bring my shot up anymore. It was completely bottomed out, but this is literally completely bottomed out here. There's nothing I can do. When I bottom these out, I literally am bringing my shot as high as I can, and it is way off. But you'll see my first 5 shots were low with this completely bottomed out. So I backed it off to go even lower just to see. And I mean, windage-wise, I'm fine. Elevation, I'm stuck. And you can see my grouping's just fine. Now, just for the sake of the argument and the experiment, one last test with these flip-up sights. I'm going to change this diaphragm now to the smallest. I feel like I have my windage fine, but my elevation is struggling. So I'm going to aim for the top right X. I think I'm seeing a group low and a little bit left. All 10 shots. That could be it. This paper is getting tight at this point. Alright, so now we're going to go red dot at 100 yards just for the argument. So let's see if I can hit steel at 100. And that'll at least give me a benchmark for the iron sights. Yep. Let's try the little guy. Little right. Oh, yeah, nailed it. I mean, I think I hit 9 out of 10 with the red dot at 100, no problem. That was on the mid-size target too, so that was nice. So now turning off the red dot, and we'll flip up the sights. We're going to do the same exact experiment here. Now this is with the smallest diaphragm, and we'll go on the larger of the two iron sights here. So let's give this a shot. And here we go. I have no idea where that went at all. Oh, it's low. Alright, so now I'm aiming at the wood bar above the target. And right. Oh, I got it. Alright, so I can adjust my windage a little bit, but I'm still maxed. Yep. Alright, so I got windage dialed in, no problem. But I'm literally aiming at the wood bar above the target. Yep. I got that. So here we go. Clearly. Alright, elevation, not good. Windage, perfect. So here, just missing that little guy. Yep. So I can get it, but I'm compensating completely. I'm literally shooting the wood bar above the target. Not good, but the legs are awesome. I like the bipod. Sights, not so much. Now, last but not least, I'm gonna go 45-degree sights at 100 yards. So no clue. I'm way off. So far right. So let's get this back to somewhat zeroed. Oh man, it's still pretty far right. Got it. 2 in a row. In a row. 4 in a row. Ended strong. 45-degree sights at 100. 4 in a row once I got it dialed in. So, yeah, that was spot on. Once I got it dialed in. But my elevation's bottomed out. I have no more adjustment. So at 100 yards, it'll hit pretty much spot on. And I did manage to get my windage dialed in too. So that's good. Mixed results today. And so, all right, guys, now back from the range with these Med 10 products. All in all, what do I think? Well, mixed results. Unfortunately, some things that I think just won't work for me. Now, Again, keep in mind, my exact setup is going to differ from every other firearm. It doesn't matter whether they're the same firearm or a little bit different. I mean, everybody's setup is going to be a little bit different. And could I set things up a little bit sort of different to change my results? Probably. So where do I roll in? Well, let's talk about the 45-degree sights. By the end of it, I did end up with some reasonable results. Now, I do find that in many ways, I mean, I had slammed my windage all the way over. And so if you take a look at where this is actually adjusted at this point, I mean, I have that pretty far over. There's not a lot to go. So you can see how far I did have to push that to get my windage accurate. And that was finally at 100 yards. Now, the other thing that is very difficult, well, on my front post here, that is actually completely bottomed out. So I have no more adjustment to bring my shot up. And that's what really is leaving this the most lacking. And there's really nothing else I can do. I mean, I don't know if there's another way to mount this that would actually get it lower. But to me, that's about the best I can personally do with my particular setup. So at this point, I think I'm kind of stuck. I don't know if I can really do anything to bring my shot really up to where it needs to be, or in other words, bring my sights down. So as I mentioned the whole time, I mean, once I was out to 100 yards, I was aiming pretty high in order to get this to actually hit the steel. And as far as the standard sights, so the standard pop-up sights, all in all, look, this is actually, I'm trying to get this back down, jammed up on me just a little bit, but it will go. But the standard sights, again, I mean, these I definitely struggle because, well, at this point, again, I have my front sight post buried all the way down as far as it can go. It will not go lower than this. And my shots just have to come up. There's nothing else I can do. And again, here on the windage adjustment, you can see that it is pushed pretty far over, but there is still a good amount of ways to go. So all in all, I was able to make my windage work, but elevation is just struggling with this particular setup. I don't know if it's, the height of my pick rails, but that's standard and there's nothing I can do on this side. I mean, that's fixed in height. Other than that, I mean, and with the 45-degree sights, I knew I was going to smash my hand. I knew it was going to happen. There was no way that I was going to be able to manipulate this without hitting that point. So the fact that that's that sharp point there, and it's pretty sharp, I mean, that needs to be fully rounded and contoured. I mean, that is literally right there, and just left myself with not a major gash, but imagine if I was under duress, what that would have done to me, and the potential to injure yourself on top of everything else. You just can't have that happening. So this to me just doesn't work. Now, the bipod is awesome. I like this bipod quite a bit. And in fact, I'm planning on keeping this on here. I think the bipod's very effective, held nice and firm, gave me a good accurate mount as I was working on my shots and at distance, and more so than actually some of the other bipods that I've used. So these bipods I do definitely like, and I can say I highly recommend them. And so mixed results today. I mean, I felt like my shooting was actually really good. The red dot was close to centered. I mean, certainly not perfect, but enough that it was able to verify the fact that, my sights really don't co-witness very well with it. It would take a lot of finagling, a lot of messing around, and more things that just get in the way of accuracy and repeatable results. So again, mixed results today. I'm still up in the air. The flip-up sights, unfortunately, I don't think are for me, but the bipod, I can say absolutely. And so again, I would like to say thank you very much to the people at Mid-10 who did provide these products for review. And for the rest of you, if you like this content, do me a favor, take a look at my Outer Limitless channel, which is more my primary gear. On that channel, I cover everything from hiking, camping, and backpacking excursions, all the gear that goes with it. So from sleep systems, shelter systems, knives, axes, flashlights, backpacks, you name it, that's my Outer Limitless YouTube channel. So all right, guys, thanks for stopping by. I hope you like what you saw. I hope you found it a little bit informative. If you like what you saw, please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, thanks for stopping by. Take care now. I'll see you soon.